Okay, good morning, Kacie. Thank you so much for agreeing to interview with me on my research. The purpose of my research is to identify and understand the motivating factors that doctoral students face when choosing online degree programs. So I appreciate you taking your time to help me with this research.
Absolutely.
At this time, I'm going to go ahead and go into the questions that I have for you. Feel free to add any additional information that you feel will be more beneficial with these questions, and we'll go from there. Okay?
Excellent.
All right. So my first question for you is, why did you choose an online degree program for your doctoral degree?
So in the beginning, my previous supervisor actually was the one who was, I don't want to say pushing me towards another degree, knowing that in order for me to move anywhere in my career, I'm going to have the doctoral degree in order to do that. She would send subtle hints, you should do this, or here's a program, have you seen this one? And one day we were sitting at our conference table just chatting, and she brought up, did you know ETSU has an online EDD program? And I was like, no way. And so we actually looked it up together. And I guess what I was waiting on, most of my colleagues will attend Trevecca for their EDD program or Lipscomb. And they're both private institutions, of course. So Austin P doesn't pay the entire amount of the tuition. You get partial paid, but you're still going to have to pay quite a bit out of pocket. Right. There were also pieces of the programs that didn't really speak to me, mostly that the program was really focused, or maybe they just combined the secondary education with higher education. So the majority of the people in the program were seeking this EDD degree to continue in their, K through 12 education. And K through 12 is excellent and all, but it is not something that I know anything about or really want to learn anything about. Right. So I just couldn't bring myself to start a program that I knew I was going to be sitting in a class talking about secondary education challenges and stuff like that, when really all I wanted to talk about was higher education. And everyone and all my colleagues that are attending those programs, they like it. They get to do their projects and things based on higher education topics, but the discussion in classes are going to be mostly focused in on secondary education, and that was not something that I wanted to do. I knew that if I started a program in which I wasn't going to be interested in, I would not follow through with that program and complete that degree. So I just kept pushing it off until I found something that worked in my life at the time, where I could continue working, and Austin P would pay for it. The whole thing. It's a free degree. I'm still paying loans from my master's and undergraduate degree. So I really, knew that next degree, whatever it's going to be, it's got to be free.
Right.
So when the seed was planted about the ETSU program, I started researching it a little bit more, and that's why and how I got here.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I hope that answered your question. I kind of
answered it very well. Thank you. What do you perceive as the negative and the positive aspects of an online degree program?
Yeah. Something I think about a lot. Coming from doing my master's full-time at the University of Tennessee, they have a really great PhD program there, but it's a full-time. You have to live there. You can't really work. You're doing research projects or GTA projects or something in order to get through that program, and it's at least 6 years. That is not something that I was willing to do, go all in on ground, right. Quit my job, move back to Knoxville or somewhere, anywhere to do an on-ground degree. It just wasn't in my career. If I was going to do that, it would have had to have been either later, or it would have had to have happened right after my master's degree. That was just not where I was at the time. Now, I think there are positives to the on-ground portion, is that you're living, breathing the program. I think there's a lot of perceived pros to that on ground. Maybe there's a word I'm looking for there. There's a word, help me out here.
Okay.
It's like a higher level. It's seen as a higher level than an online degree. What's that word I'm looking for?
I don't know, Kacie.
It's just people look at it to be more prestigious. That's it.
Okay.
That's the word. Some people, especially in academia, will look at a PhD or an on-ground degree being more prestigious than if you were just doing the online version. However, I believe that the online degree has a lot of pros, mostly that it will work with my current life. And a lot of people, while they're working, can do this degree. It's still very challenging, and you still have to do as much writing intensive and research intensive projects. I do think there are some online degree programs out there that give it a bad rep. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're just kind of given a degree if you just show up or, I don't know, do whatever. But I do not feel like this one has been like that at all. I feel like it's very, I don't feel like I'm getting any less quality on this program, in the online program, than I would be getting in an on-ground program. Okay. Most of that is because of this web technology that we have, like this Skyping type function. Right. That the classes that I enjoy the most that we have are the ones that require some kind of login, and we're going to do a big conference call or whatever with the entire class, and we're going to discuss some things. I learn most of the information, or I learn better in that kind of situation. So having some kind of face-to-face component, I think really gives the online degree programs a little bit more prestige and ability for every type of learner, not just the ones that can teach themselves. Right. So I don't know, pros and cons. There are pros and cons there, but I think for me in my life and where I am right now, the online degree program pros outweigh the cons for me.
I agree. So how important is it to have the support of family when you're deciding to go to an online program?
Yeah, I think that's super important. Part of the pros of an online degree program is that you get to you don't have to like leave your family and go off again and do this whole education thing. My family don't really understand what I'm doing. So they support me and they know that I'm continuing my education. Yeah. But if you were to ask any of them what I'm actually doing, they would not be able to answer that question. I'm first generation college student. So my sister, I have an older sister who went through college just ahead of me, but my parents have very little knowledge of what happens in a college institution. So they support me because they know, and they've always wanted me to continue education and be a lifelong learner. They have really instilled that in me. But the specifics of what I'm doing, they don't really know. They know I have to study a lot. They know I have to do things. This is my sister's house. I borrow my sister's house to have a decent place to mostly a quiet place to sit down. Do these classes if I'm not in my office. Yeah. So they know I work a whole lot, and if I'm not working, I'm doing class stuff. So they are very supportive in picking up and helping me out whenever I need it and however I need it without asking too many questions.
So my next question actually, ties in with that. I mean, how do you find balance between work and home?
I'm working on that. It's really hard. I don't know if I'll ever I will ever achieve that until I'm done. But it has been really, really tough. I feel like 90% of my world right now is work and school. Right. And I get about 10% with family and friends right now. So I think that it's important to know that the balancing is really not a balance at all. It's just accepting the fact that you have to put more time and effort towards this, and then being more intentional with the time you spend with family, knowing that it's not going to be as much time with them during these few years, but knowing also that it's not always going to be like that. You kind of have to become unbalanced in order to become balanced in the future.
Yeah. I agree, definitely, wholeheartedly. How does an individual's learning style factor into how successful you are as an online student?
I think that's a great question. So I work with all kinds of students, undergraduate students, trying to help them be successful in college. And we have a lot of discussions about online education. The biggest thing, especially new students coming in, the biggest thing is understanding that there is a portion where you do have to have your own ability to make yourself sit down and do the work, and that you're not going to have a scheduled time where you feel like you have to be there and getting the work done in class all the time. Now it's, you have 20 minutes, 30 minutes time available. You need to log on and actually do your work. I think that the people that do and I think it's at different levels. So like as an undergraduate, I had two online classes throughout my undergraduate degree, and I hated them. I forgot about them constantly. I just wanted to get through it. I didn't learn anything in those classes. It was like art appreciation was one of them. And I don't even remember what the other one was. I think it may have been a leadership class of some sort. And it just was not conducive for my learning style. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. I need to see and hear and do. I need to do everything, do all of those things in order to really learn about it. And at the time in undergrad, I didn't have those skills that were developed well enough or to an extent where I could actually sit down and do that and be super successful. I passed the classes with a B, maybe a C, I don't even remember, but I didn't learn anything in them. So as an adult learner, I think that changed a lot when I'm a little bit more motivated to do the work, and I'm interested in what I'm learning as well. And I know that it's going to benefit me, and there's a value to what I'm learning, and it's going to specifically be needed in the future. So I am more willing or able to say, Kacie, you have to sit down and do this, or stay late at work, and you're going to sift through all of this research information and try to figure out what phenomenology means. What does that word mean? Right. So that is I think the biggest thing is like, where are you in your life? What type of learning style are you going to need to use to get through it and be successful? And if you can make yourself do it yourself, like I can sit down and write things and interact and find videos online trying to teach me all of these things, but it takes intentionality for me to know this is how I'm going to learn it, and this is what I'm going to have to do to get through the class. And I can't expect the professor to sit down and do that with me or make me do those things. So I do think that the learning style is a big factor in how successful a student is in online learning, and it's also about where they are in their own self-awareness of how they need to utilize that learning style to learn what they need to know.
So in looking at other programs, how did the enrollment process at ETSU, how did it factor into your decision in comparison to other online degree programs?
So I did not apply to any other program because there was not many programs in Tennessee to begin with. And once I found this one, I was like, oh, I didn't even know it existed. So I'm going through that. So the enrollment process to me wasn't hard, because it just seemed like I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I needed just to do this one next thing. And then after that thing, it would clear up what I needed to do next. Yeah. So I got an interview, and I didn't really know what that interview was going to entail or consist of or what that meant. But I learned more once I was actually interviewing with the faculty of the program. I learned more of how the rest of that process is going to look and when I would actually find out and everything. So it wasn't, the enrollment process to me doesn't stand out much, because one, I didn't do any other online or enrollment process, and it wasn't super challenging that I remember.
Yeah, that's one of the things I remember, because I did look at other programs, like University of Memphis, and I thought that the enrollment process was pretty cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
ESU. So that
Were
was
they all the same? Were they all the same program? Like, were they all EDD programs?
The one at University of Memphis, yeah, it was like an executive leadership program that I looked into.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like you had to go through all these extra steps just to get to that enrollment process. So,
and that's like all the other programs that I looked at, I never got as far of the enrollment process because something about the program turned me off. And
right. Yeah.
Well, you're going to be sitting in class learning about K through 12 education, but you can do your projects on higher ed.
Right.
And that was at all of the ones that I looked around that were EDD programs, and then all of the PhD programs in higher ed, you had to be full-time on ground, totally invested for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So that's when I would look at them and be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And wouldn't even get to the point of the enrollment process. So Ethan, she was the first one that I was like, okay, so just kind of one step at a time going through that process, because I was like, all right, I think I like this. And then you get through the next step. Okay, I think I still like this. And then you continue on and then you start classes.
Yeah. So what do you find helps you to be the most successful as an online student?
And
that question may be a little bit broad, but what helps you to get through the challenges? We have 2 courses that we have to take per semester. And of course, the summer semester is always, it goes by so fast and there's just so much. Yeah. But what keeps you motivated, I guess?
What keeps me motivated is the fact that I'm interested in this material. I truly do feel like I'm a lifelong learner, for one. So learning about higher education and a topic that interests me, I could sit and read about higher education all day long, articles on it, or I don't know, I don't know why. I think it might be a little weird, but the topic and what I'm learning about is important to me and is super interesting to me. I think I can do some kind of good in this area. I don't know exactly what that might be, but I know that I can help somebody someday, if I haven't already, get a degree that may not have actually been able to do that. And hopefully by that degree, they were able to get a job that they're able to support their life and maybe live a better quality of life than what they had before they had the education. So all comes back to being able to help other people. Something intrinsically within me that enjoys this type of work, I think is probably the biggest motivator. And then knowing what's on the other end. I don't know really what happens after I finish this program or what I'm going to do, but I know that I'll have more opportunities to do what I want to do than as just having a master's degree and being a staff member. Faculty look at you a little bit differently. Higher administrators look at you a little bit differently when you can say, hi, my name's Dr. Ellis, or whatever.
And that's unfortunate.
It is super unfortunate, yeah.
But I mean, that's just the world that we live in, and I understand what you're saying there. And I know that you'll go really far because you have all kinds of potential.
We'll see if the burnout doesn't come first. So,
we're gonna help motivate.
I love doing the work, but I'm really working on not being burnt out and not having to giving in to external factors or from the university and dealing with that leadership life. So
my last question for you, Kacie, is what information would you give other students if they were faced with the decision of choosing an online program versus a traditional classroom?
My first thought there would be to talk to them about what their learning styles are and then what is their motivation for getting the degree. I think it has to kind of line up. All the stars have to line up for them in order to be successful. We do a lot of predictive analytics, or we used to at Austin P, on predicting a student's success rate and it's compared to all kinds of other factors. The students exactly like them with the same grades and all this other stuff. So knowing that if they're not able to sit through any kind of, I don't know, maybe I think of all my nurses or something, students that just want to be a nurse because they want to help somebody, but they don't like to see they don't like to see blood,
right?
They can't handle blood or bodily fluids or something. It's probably not the place for them, and you're not probably going to be very successful. I think the same about trying to pick an on-ground versus an online degree program is, are you able and do you have the ability and the technology available to you to sit down and do all this stuff on your computer? Do you have a space for it? Do you have the motivation internally on the topics that you're going to be talking about? When I talk to students that can't decide on a degree program, I pull up like their classes that they would be taking in their major or potential major, and I name off a bunch of titles of classes, and I said, does any of that spark an interest in you at all? Sometimes they're like, yeah, I'm really interested in that. I don't know what it is, but it sounds really interesting. I'm like, well, that might be the place for you. Or does it sound like horrible? Like, to me, thinking of all kinds of different math probability classes or something would make me think that just would be super horrible and torture to go into that program.
Right.
And when I see my math students, my math majors go through there and I'm looking at the classes they're taking, I'm like, that just sounds awful to me. Like, I could not do that. So talking to them about the type of classes that program is going to offer, do they sound interesting to you at all? Do you have the space and the internal motivation to actually sit down and, if you have to, teach yourself these topics by reading a whole lot, or even if you have to Google stuff, YouTubing things. And if you're not able to do that or willing to do that, or that there are factors in your life that are going to prevent you from being able to get online all the time, then maybe you need to look at the on-ground option, and that might be a better option for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Answer.
Well, that is going to conclude our interview. Thank you.
Excellent.
So
good luck
much
on your research.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.
Awesome.